I've always been a fan of Pokemon Soloruns. Hell, it's the way I played my first Pokemon game with my starter, like many others did. The idea of using only one Pokemon and pushing its moveset and power to the absolute limit is incredibly fascinating to me. Now, how could one push this even further? Do it in every single generation. I chose Mr. Mime for a few reasons. 1, it's a Pokemon I'm often associated with online, and 2, it's a Pokemon that's been around since Generation 1, and has gone through a lot of changes. Most notably, gaining the Fairy typing in Generation 6. We'll get to that later. Now let's get into the first Solorun, Pokemon Red, which I chose because it has harder gym leaders than Yellow. This will actually be the first time I've played through Vanilla Red. I'm expecting this to be the easiest Solorun for a few reasons. Psychic is resisted by only one type in Gen 1 itself, and its weaknesses Bug and Ghost don't actually have good moves to hit Mr. Mime. Not only that, but because of how critical hits work in this generation, Mr. Mime has a 17% chance to crit each turn. Despite Mr. Mime having multiple ways to boost its defenses though, it cannot boost its special attack, meaning it might struggle later on. It is also a bit weaker in this generation because it has 20 less special defense than in Generation 2. Now that all the talking's out of the way, let's get into the gameplay. I pick up Mr. Mime from Professor Oak and name it Mr. 1, a name I'm sure I won't find super like next week. I make it so that Gary ends up with Charizard and Gyarados by getting Mr. Mime from where Bulbasaur usually would be. Now let's just straight jump ahead to the first gym leader, Brock, who I beat easily in one try thanks to Barrier and Confusion. Despite a tough battle with a trained Jigglypuff who keeps using Sing and Disable, the road to Pewter City goes quite smoothly. I pick up Mega Punch on the way there and immediately teach it to Mr. Mime, which will be my main way of hitting opposing Psychic types in the future. When I arrive in Pewter City, I first face Gary, who goes down without too much trouble. I then try to beat Missy, but after a few wideouts to Star meets Bubble Beam, I decide to first meet up with Bill to get the ticket to the SSN. On the way there, Mr. Mime levels up and learns Light Screen, which lasts until the user switches out in Generation 1, a game changer next to Barrier. With this newly acquired move, I head up back to Misty and beat her. 2 batches down. On the SSN I get the TM for Body Slam with better Mega Punch, but I'm not teaching it yet to keep my options open. I beat Gary once again and get the HM cut from the old trunk. Lieutenant Surge is a joke thanks to Light Screen. I get a very important TM here, Thunderbolt, which makes up pretty much all the special coverage Mr. Mime has in Pokemon Red. I'm holding on to it now until I need it. I'm expecting the following 2 gyms to be even easier, as Erica and Coke have mainly poison types. The road to Erica goes without too much trouble. Erica falls flat to a few confusions and I get the 4th gym badge. Time to take out the Rocket Hideout. Also a good time to say a little bit more about evil teams in this challenge. While in this game there are no dark types, we can expect to see those and bites a lot more in the future, meaning regular old grunts could give us some problems. Even when Mr. Mime becomes fairy poison types will be there too. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. After some stumbling around, I finally find Giovanni and take him out. Next I head to Lavender Town, where I'm facing Gary again in the Pokemon Tower, and it seems he's added a new Pokemon to his team, Execute. Will be an unexpected hurdle in the future, keep a lookout on that. On the first try, Pidgeotto gets off a Sand attack when I try to set up on it, losing me the battle. I return to him, and this time I decide to kill the Pidgeotto first, and then set up on Execute instead, which wins me the game this time. Koga is the next gym leader Mr. Mime is coming for, and after surprisingly surviving a self-destruct from his weeding, I earn the soul badge. Then I head to Silph Cove to take on Team Rocket once more. I really do hate this base. I spent an embarrassing amount of time here, but I finally find Gary. Now that his Execute starts going for Poison Power and Leech Seed, the battle's already over before I know it and I have to try again. I've had enough of Gary, so this time I go to Mr. Psychic's house to get the TM for Psychic, and after losing to him again, yeah, I teach it to Mr. Mime. I return to him with a vengeance, and thanks to Mr. Mime avoiding a poisoning and landing a crit Mega Punch, I beat Gary with the newfound power of Psychic. And Giovanni also falls victim to the same strong Psychic. On to the only gym leader to resist my Psychics, Sabrina, who's mostly an easy sweep for Mr. Mime, aside from Alakazam, who takes a Mega Punch and keeps spamming Recover until I finally take it out. Final 2 gym leaders, Blaine and Giovanni, are helpless against the most powerful Mr. Mime in all the land, so it's not even worthy talking about. On to Victory Road we go. On the second to last rival fight, I almost white out to Gary again, but I managed to make it out with a sliver of health despite being poisoned and leash heated. Well, I almost make it out anyway. I make it to Victory Road unscathed, so let's talk about how we're gonna take on the Elite Four. After looking at the teams, I decided to get rid of Light Screen for Thunderbolt, Mega Punch for Body Slam, and I also saved before teaching them the moves, as to keep the possibilities open of having to change my strategy. Being at level 57, I'm actually not over leveled at all, which I didn't expect. Gary's Charizard actually level 65, so we might actually be in a tough position. First up is Lorelei, who should be no problem now that I've got Thunderbolt alongside Psychic. I started with a crit against Dugong, which I'm not sure if mattered to take it out. Cloyster's up next, who goes down to a Thunderbolt. Slowbro to 2 Thunderbolts, Jinx to a crit Thunderbolt, and then last we got Lapras, who takes a Thunderbolt and fires back with a strong Hydro Pump, but Mime lives and takes it out with another Thunderbolt. 1 down, 3 to go. Next up we got Bruno, whose fighting types I'm expecting to take out in 1 hit with Psychic, which is exactly what happens. Agatha may seem like a tough battle at first glance, but since all the Ghost and Poison type Pokemon are weak to Psychic, they cannot really hurt Mr. Mime, so we should be alright. Mr. Mime outspeeds both Gengar and kills the first one in 1 hit, but the final one lives. At that point though, it doesn't matter, and we take it out. Now we get to the big guys. Lance I have no real strategy for aside from overpower it with Psychics. Except that I'm a stupid, stinking idiot, and I forget to recover my PP for the move after using it all up in the last 2 battles. Despite that, I still give it a go, and Gyarados goes down to a single Thunderbolt, of course. Next up we got Dragonair, who goes for a Hyper Beam, as I crit Body Slam and paralyze it. Now, luckily that gives me an extra turn, so I set it barrier up and take it out with another Body Slam. Next is his second Dragonair, and I go for the same strategy, slowly whittling it down. Mr. Mime comes out with only 32 HP left, and I've still got to take out his Aerodactyl and Dragonite. Mr. Mime surprisingly outspeeds Aerodactyl and takes a single Thunderbolt to take it out, giving me false sense of security because of course I go down to a Hyper Beam from Dragonite. Let's try it again, shall we? I reset the game so I'm back at level 57 and I head back in. This time, Lorelei, Agatha and Bruno all go down as easily as the last time, so it's back to Lance we go, now with full Psychic PP. Dragonair misses a Hyper Beam, giving me the chance to set up 2 barriers this time, ensuring me the victory as I take out his Dragonite with ease. On to the champion, Mr. Gary himself. I think I'll be alright, so long as I can quickly take out the now fully evolved Executor. This time I decide to not set up in front of Pidgeot, as I take it out with a single crit Thunderbolt. Alakazam comes out next, who sets up a pretty important Reflect, making my Body Slams weaker. I take it out the following turn. He then sends out Rhydon, who falls to a single Psychic. Out comes a big bad Executor, with trade attacks slowly whittling each other down as I'm able to take it out with 22 HP remaining, without being leech heated or poisoned. Gyarados comes out on the field next, but as we've seen time and time again, goes down to a single Thunderbolt. Finally it's here, the strongest member on the team, his level 65 Charizard. If the following Thunderbolt doesn't kill it, I've gotta try again. Mr. Mime uses all of his power to go for another Thunderbolt and it's a crit. We've done it. After losing time and time again to Gary, we pull through and take Mr. Mime to the Hall of Fame. Well then, as expected, this was likely the easiest one, thanks to Mr. Mime not getting hit by a single super effective hit all run. As well as being faster than nearly all Pokemon while also being able to spam Psychic type moves without any drawback, this really is a generation for Psychic types. I'm unsure when the next video will be out, but be damn sure it's coming. Thank you for watching, and until next time.